Hello, Melissa. I know many of our listeners are wondering right now, what concrete steps is the UK taking to ensure assistance reaches those most vulnerable and marginalised communities? For example, displaced people and refugees affected by the conflict.
Well, the answer to that is, I guess, that the reason we're having the conference tomorrow started because David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, visited Ardre last year, and he was so moved and affected by what he saw and the people that he spoke to, that he felt that the UK did need to do more. He personally felt that he wanted to use his convening power and his leadership to do whatever he could, accepting that this is a very long-standing, deep-rooted, fiendishly difficult situation. He felt that there was more that the UK could do. So yes, that is about money, and we have committed money, and we'll commit some more tomorrow. But I think as importantly is that he uses his ability to bring people together, this time here in London, but together with the African Union and other partners, just to see whether we can come together and have those discussions that you need to, unless you get people together, they don't happen, that can be about trying to decide how we as an international community can use our influence to try and move things towards the peace that we know is so desperately needed.
I'm sure our audience is curious about how the UK is supporting Sudan's post-war recovery, especially without Sudanese state reps at this key conference. How do you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, I hesitate to describe it as a post-conflict situation. There's clearly horrendous conflict going on the ground today, and people are suffering and dying as a consequence of that. So this conference, this time, isn't going to be including the parties from Sudan, because we just feel we're not at a stage, sadly, today where that would take us any further forward than we already are. This is about the international community coming together. It would be a very positive step should we be able to get to a position where we can bring those parties together and where negotiation is their preferred method of resolving their differences. But as things stand, there is a live conflict. It is the civilians in Sudan who are paying the price for this with their lives. So we feel that to stand by and do nothing and to wait for the warring factions in Sudan to decide that they want to come together, we're not prepared to just stand aside and wait for that to happen. We feel that we need to be as active in the right way and use our diplomatic leverage, use our convening power to bring people together, just to see whether some of the conversations we can have tomorrow might just bring us closer to peace.
The question of the day is sort of a key concern for many Sudanese, both in the diaspora and at home, is how do you explain inviting the UAE, which is itself facing a genocide case at the ICJ and been accused of arming the RSF?
Well, look, we'll talk to anybody who we think can be helpful in moving towards reconciliation and peace and trying to get the stability that we need. And that's why we're doing that. In terms of the ICJ, I mean, you will know this. You'll have heard this very many times, that we don't ascribe genocide ourselves. We leave that to competent courts, and we respect the ICJ. And should there be a ruling to that effect, we would respect it. And that's our position in these situations, wherever they arise. But we do feel it's important to invite the UAE. But we've said repeatedly to all other states who have involved themselves in different ways that actually it's the right thing at the moment is for everybody to be respecting the arms embargo and to using any influence that they have. And there are many countries who have some influence in this situation. We recognise that, but that should be used in order to come to a negotiated outcome here that doesn't rely on the use of military force.
And the last question. So how can the UK and other international actors work together at this upcoming conference to build consensus among rival external backers and ensure a ceasefire is enforced while holding perpetrators of war crimes accountable?
Well, the first thing you've got to do, and what we've learned through the UK's experience in different places of trying to bring an end to conflict, the first thing you have to do, whenever possible, is to get people in the same room, looking each other in the eye and agreeing what the problem is before you get anywhere near trying to work out how you solve it. Sadly, in Sudan, that has not yet been achieved. And tomorrow, we hope, will be another step towards at least accepting that we have millions of people at risk of famine. And this is the biggest humanitarian disaster on the face of the planet. And we have to understand that. Everybody needs to accept that they have a role in helping to resolve this. And that's why we want to bring this conference to London tomorrow, and why the Foreign Secretary has personally decided that he wants to make this, he wants to make Sudan a country where he steps up and he uses the leadership that he is able to bring to make things better for the people of Sudan.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Minister. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.